This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide, toll-free, 800-610-7035. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV. And our main website, where you can listen to the X-Zone 724-365, is www.xzoneradiotv.com. And the X-Zone is coming to you around the world on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, the Good News Radio Network, and a number of other networks, independent broadcasters, and satellite program providers. X-Zone Nation, my guest this hour is a lady I've had the pleasure of having on the show before. Her name is January Jones. And you're probably saying, well, who is January Jones, Rob? Well, this is from her, okay? And so this is directly from the January Jones camp. Here we go. Who is January Jones? Well, she is not a young, beautiful, talented actress on Mad Men. She is not an older, gorgeous, exotic dancer, and that was from the Johnny Carson Show, Explanation. She is an author of Priceless Personalities, Thou Shalt Not Whine, the 11th Commandment. I love that title. Jackie, Ari, and Jack, the Tragic Love Triangle. Oh No, Jackie O, and the Christina, the Onassis Odyssey. She is a talk show host syndicated at talk4media.com, iHeartRadio.com, and blogtalkradio.com. She is a Kennedy expert, 3 books and 500 radio and TV interviews. She is a reality TV golf personality. Her favorite number is 4. She is a radio and television guest personality. She is a cruise ship speaker. She is on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google. She is a humorist and winologist. Now, we're not talking about the liquid wine here. We're talking about, I want that. You know, that kind of wine. And she's an X-Zone member. We've had the pleasure of having January on before. And January Jones, welcome back to the X-Zone. Always great talking to you, and congratulations on all your accomplishments.
Well, thank you, Rob. It's wonderful to be with you again. I love doing your show. I love visiting with you. And as you can see, I've been a very busy gal since we talked last time. And as far as the whining, we also can do the wine that you drink. We can do both.
Yeah, but I love the 11th commandment, thou shalt not whine. How did you come up with that?
Isn't that great?
It is.
It's a killer title, and that's why that particular book went to #1 at Amazon.com, because the title did it. I mean, the book's okay, but the title, you have to, when you're writing, if you don't have a killer title, you're going nowhere. And you have to have a killer cover. And those 2 things are the first 2 things I tell writers when they come on my show. Mm-hmm. Make sure that your title stands out. Make sure it's something that people remember. And, my first title, interesting, was called Dying Without Whining.
Dying without wine.
And my publisher said, your market's only going to be terminal people with cancer. So we canceled that one, and that's when we went with Thou Shalt Not Whine.
My goodness. So basically, you wrote a book so you could use the title.
Yeah. Well, actually, I had been working on it. The whining thing was just going, it was an epidemic, and I was kind of interested in what people were whining about. Previously to this book, I had been writing about the Kennedys,
Right.
and I wanted to do something different. I wanted to go into a different genre, and I kind of fancy myself as a bit of a humorist in the tradition of Irma Bombeck. I kind of like to do housewife humor, the things women talk about when they're standing in the checkout line or waiting or doing carpool. So the book came about, I did a survey, and it took 2 years to write this book. And the survey we sent out was to ask people what they whine about, why they whine, and what their cures for whining are. And it was a fascinating research project. I really enjoyed doing this book because it was a fun book, and it gave me a chance to become a winologist.
January, you and I have to take a commercial break. Please stand by. X-Zone Nation, the one and only January Jones is our special guest this hour. www.januaryjones.com is her website, and January and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, here in the X-Zone. So the next time I have somebody on talking about church, the Bible, or religion, I'll have to say, well, do you know what the 11th commandment is? And they'll say, no. I said, thou shalt not whine. We'll be back. Don't go away.
Nita Hickok is an expert in exorcisms, psychic warfare, soul healing, angelology, soul retrieval, demonology, energy healing, long-distance healing, astral healing, and much more. Nita is an interfaith minister because she believes all gods and goddesses are valid and that they are part of one divine force that is incomprehensible to us who are incarnated upon this earth. Nita has been doing astral healing, distant healing, spirit release, exorcism, house cleansing and blessings, soul restoring and revival, psychic vampire removal and curse removal, and much more for over 40 years. For more information or to contact Nita Hickok, visit her website at www.astralhealer.com. That's www.astralhealer.com.
Do you think you have energy problems in your home? Do you feel better when you're away than when you're home? Joey Korn is a global leader in the world of dowsing who specializes in personal energy clearing and space clearing. He can help you create an ideal energy environment in your home no matter where you live in the world. Learn about his remote spiritual house cleaning services and much more at www.dowsers.com. You can get Joey's book, Dowsing, A Path to Enlightenment, as well as other dowsing books and tools, Kabbalah books, and Walter Russell books. Joey's work is really amazing. Go to dowsers.com right now. That's DOWSERS.com or call 1-877-DOWSING. That's 1-877-369-7464. Welcome back, everyone. January Jones is our guest this hour. And somehow I really believe that she is related to Moses. I just haven't figured this out yet because she actually came up with the 11th commandment, which is thou shalt not whine. Now, I have to ask you, January, you and I are both very serious persons, and I know that, and I know that the Pope contacts you all the time to get clarification on certain things when it comes to the Old Testament because of your connection with Moses. Where exactly on the two tablets is the 11th commandment?
The 11th?
Yeah.
Well, actually, the truth of the matter is, you may not realize this, but Moses and I were twins. We were born twins, and we were separated at birth.
I see.
And he took off into the desert,
Uh-huh.
and I headed for the mall.
You know what? I can believe that. I really can.
So I headed to the shopping mall while he was out in the desert. But, it's funny about this book, Thou Shalt Not Whine, when I said earlier that it went to Amazon, #1 at Amazon.com. The funny thing is that I expected it to go to #1 in humor, and this book actually went to #1 in religion.
Oh, my gosh. Well, yeah, I guess so, eh? I guess so.
So there were so many people out there who saw the title and thought it was biblical and ordered the book. I love it.
I understand it's going to be available on the CBN network next week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Pat Robertson. Listen, what was your inspiration for writing Thou Shalt Not Whine?
Well, it was just to change the course of, I like to do different things.
Yeah.
And having spent so much time of my life doing the Kennedy thing, I wanted to take a different direction, and I wanted to try to get a little humor out there because everyone is so serious and everyone's so doom and gloom, and it's very negative out there. And I tried to write something that was positive. We have over 100 cures for whining in the book, and most of these cures are cures that are just plain common sense. It's a woman's common sense sprinkled with a lot of humor and hope, and that was the intention for writing the book. It was something I truly enjoyed doing, and I had really a wonderful response to it. So I think sometimes when you're out there looking for something to do, you need to just follow your heart.
You see, I discovered how to stop my wife from whining many years ago.
Yeah.
I just give her everything she wants and let her know she's boss.
Yeah, life can be so simple.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's truly a no-brainer. And actually, you and my husband would probably get along quite well.
Like whenever I have that talk with my sons, I say, no sense hitting your head up against a brick wall, son. Just understand that once you say I do, it should be I'm done. And just go with the flow. A happy wife is a happy life.
Yeah. It's interesting because people ask me who whines more, men or women.
Oh, men, big time.
You think men, huh?
Oh, God, yes.
Well, the reality is you're wrong. The reality is that women whine more than men. And the reason that is because most women within one day, they will speak 7,000 words. Whereas most men, unless they're radio talk show hosts, unless they are like you, Jon Stewart, or Stephen Colbert, most men only speak about 2,000 words a day.
Do you know why that is?
Why?
Because they can't get a word in edgewise at home.
Exactly. And the women, by virtue of the quantity of words they speak, have more opportunities to whine. And, the truth is women are born with a DNN whining gene, and they're very good at it, and they learn it right from little on, and they become very experts. People want to know, what do women whine about? Well, you probably know this since you're married, but they whine about personal things like weight, hair, husbands, mother-in-laws, kids, lack of money. Well, everyone whines about that.
Oh, sure.
And they really, whining and shoes are to women what Home Depot and sports are to men. Women love whining, and they're very, very good at it. It's a means of getting attention, actually.
I've got to tell you, January, my wife does not whine.
She doesn't?
Nope.
Really?
She doesn't, because I do everything she wants.
She has nothing to whine about.
Exactly. It's...
Well, it's interesting because women tend to whine about personal things, weight, husbands, things that they can actually do something about. And then we go to, what do men whine about? Well, men actually whine about the big picture. They whine about things that they really, really can't do anything about. They whine about government, politics, the economy. They whine about their sports teams. And they whine about lack of money, which everyone does. And, one of the cures we have for men who are whining, I call it the sports team cure. Basically, if a man is whining, all you need to do is to distract him or change the subject, is ask him how his team is doing. And if you can get him onto sports, all the whining stops.
Well, what happens if his team is doing very poorly? You're just going to get him going twice as hard.
Yeah, well, they whine. They whine if they're doing badly.
Oh, I see.
And then they whine if the team is doing well because it's not doing well enough. It could be doing better things. And so they always can whine about that. And the other thing they love to whine about is their golf games.
Well, you see, I'm not a sports guy.
Oh, okay.
I don't understand the mentality of sports. For example, golf. Okay? What you do is you walk up to a ball, hit it as hard as you can, to walk up to it again, to hit it again, to walk up to it again, to hit it again, to put it in a little hole. Yeah. Now, if that wasn't insane enough, what do? You take it out of the hole and hit it again. And this goes on for either 9 or 18 times. And from what I've observed, the entire reason to play golf is you hit the ball as hard as you can just in order to go around this course of putting the ball in the hole, taking it out, hitting, and doing the entire process over and over again until you get back to the clubhouse that was about 50 feet away from where you started in the first place.
Exactly.
So my logic is you walk up to the ball, hit it as hard as you can, and then go into the clubhouse.
Go to the bar.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Go to the 19th hole. And, the funny thing about golfers is they're never happy. They're never happy. They can go out and play golf, and they only can remember the shots they screwed up. They very seldom can remember the things they did well. It's actually a very negative experience.
My favorite golf show that I've ever seen is Caddyshack.
Yeah.
Now, that's my idea of watching golf. And, when it comes to hockey, I think there should only be not even one period. Whoever gets the puck in the net the first time wins. Bang.
Go home.
Exactly.
Well, no, that would be a heresy in Canada. I can't believe you're saying that on the air.
I'm brave.
Yeah, you must be. You must be.
but think of it. I think in today's society, athletes are overpaid. Totally overpaid. And it's so hard for a family to actually afford to take their kids to a sporting event when you look at the price of gas, parking, food, everything else. Like, my goodness, it's way too expensive. And how many sports channels do you need on TV?
Oh, I know.
My Lord.
I know.
No.
Yeah, I know. It's overwhelming. It's part of our culture.
Yeah.
And everyone does it. It's just like most men, weekends between, here in the States, you have Saturday college football, and then it swings right into Sunday. Then there's Monday and Thursday and whatever. It's a pretty big obsession. The truth here is it's big money.
For who?
Well, for the advertisers, for the sponsors, for the owners. I mean, like the people who go to those stadiums, they're paying these outrageous prices. That goes into someone's pocket, doesn't it?
Sure, it sure does. It sure does. Not only football, but look at the hoopla that was caused last year or earlier this year with the basketball people, and then you've got just recently the commissioner of the Football League.
Yeah.
Like, holy cow! And you yourself are a TV host, I believe, on a golf show.
Well, I'm not currently doing that. I actually participated as a golfer in the World Series of Golf, and that was televised, and I enjoyed it. Believe me, I am not a good golfer at all. I kind of did it as a little bit of an experiment. I was in the whole field, I was one of the only women playing. So I kind of was doing it as a feminist thing. And I actually did it, got a lot of publicity, made a lot of good friends. And it was kind of a fun thing to do because I went into it knowing I didn't have a chance of winning. But I just wanted to do the experience, and it is fun.
Yeah.
You know, it was when you tee off and you know this shot is like you've got thousands of dollars riding on it. It's a different game. It's a different game. Everything changes.
You know, I go out with my son-in-law. He's an avid golfer, and we go out and we have fun. But there are other people that play golf.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, you know, did you take your Prozac this morning before you went out to the golf course?
Yeah. Well, you know, I did it as kind of a lark, and it
Yeah.
was an interesting experience because once I did it, all of a sudden I had sponsors you couldn't believe. I had TaylorMade, I had Bridgestone, I had Loudmouth Golf. We go down the list. All these people wanted to sponsor me because I was an older woman and I was the only one out there playing. And they were going to get exposure on television by sponsoring me. And it was funny. TaylorMade, when we approached them, the reason I thought we would be a good fit, if you can imagine this, Rob, their colors are red, yellow, and black. And if you've seen my book, those
Yeah.
are my book colors.
It is.
And so, like, as a typical woman, I said we were just a match because your golf clubs are my colors. So they immediately picked up on it.
Yeah.
And they sent me a golf bag. They sent me, I went to their training camp to get my clubs, the Kingdom, they call it, down in California. All my clubs were made specifically for me.
January, I hate to do this to you, but you're in the radio business, so you know what happens when we come up against a hard break. X-Zone Nation, January Jones is our special guest, and for more information, visit JanuaryJones.com, and we'll be back on the other side of this news break. Don't go away. What if someone told you you could live to be 120? Would you believe him? What if he told you the Bible guaranteed it? All you needed to do was follow his rules and buy his products. Would you do it? What if you invested 20 years of your life in him? What if he tested his substances on your child? What if your child became brain damaged as a result? Meet Dr. Tyler Belknap, a fast-talking Texas admin turned health guru. At the helm of a vast health food and supplement empire, he has established himself as the authority on nutrition and longevity. But what his followers don't know is that his products are laced with bizarre psychoactive substances from genetically modified plants developed in his very own secret lab. No wonder his customers can't stop using them. Tyler Belknap will stop at nothing to keep his edge in the market, even if it means experimenting on children. Chasing 120, a story of food, faith, fraud, and the pursuit of longevity, a novel from the pen of political cartoonist Monty Wolverton, is an easy and entertaining read full of rich characters and intrigue. It hits home in a world filled with all kind of hucksterism and offers a glimpse of what can happen when GMO technology falls into the wrong hands. Chasing 120 by Monty Wolverton. Get your copy today at www.ptm.org/120 or on Amazon.com. The ability to access the knowledge of the universe is much easier for us to access than we may believe. Brad Johnson, conscious matrix communicator, is one of these unique individuals who is able to access a strong connection to the universal mind. Through his connection, Brad has assisted thousands of clients from all over the world through natural intuitive assistance. The intuitive information received is vast, covering a wide range of subjects. Brad's innate ability includes being able to access one's own universal matrix to help them realize their potential to create a life of profound greatness. One-on-one private sessions with Brad Johnson are available to anyone from around the world. Brad is also a proficiently trained psychic, Akashic Records reader, an online spiritual teacher, founder of his own unique and powerful healing system, Body Regeneration Healing, as well as a professional conscious channeler in communication with his own higher self-consciousness, known as Adronis. For more information or to book a service appointment with Brad Johnson, visit his website at www.consciousmatrix.com. That's www.consciousmatrix.com. Welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. My guest this hour is the one and only January Jones. Her website is www.januaryjones.com. January, another book that you have is entitled Priceless Personality, Success Stories Shared by January Jones. I was wondering if you could tell us about this book.
Well, I'm very, very proud of this book, Rob, and it's available at Amazon, and it just became available at audible.com. And it's success stories shared by January Jones. And what I've done is I've taken 10 of the interviews from my radio show. These are the interviews, the special people, the priceless people, the ones you can't forget, the ones that touch your heart and soul. And we've had these interviews transcribed, and they have become, the 10 interviews have become the book. And I've shared this with my listeners at Amazon and now at Audible. The people that I chose, they just are priceless. And I've chose them because their stories, they share their stories. They share their struggles.
Yeah.
They're very open and honest about the things they have gone through. And the best part is they share their success. And it's been one of the most inspiring books that I've ever done. And actually, it's volume 1, and we're now working on volume 2. And that'll be coming out next year. It's Priceless Personalities, Paranormal Spiritual Stories shared by January Jones.
Can you share with us some of the featured guests that you had in your book?
Okay, and I'd be happy to do that. Chapter 1, Jeannie Kerrigan, amazing gal. She was an incest survivor, and she created a foundation called Ricky's, and she actually helps. She has a nonprofit, and she has recovered and gone through so much, and now she helps other children. Chapter 2 is Stephen Simon, and he is a Hollywood person, a child. He grew up in Hollywood. His father worked for Harry Cohn, and he actually was the producer of that wonderful classical movie, Somewhere in Time. And Stephen shares his story, his childhood, what it was like to grow up in Hollywood, and then how he moved on to do other things and became quite spiritual. Chapter 3 is Susanna Barlow, and she was a child of polygamy. And she was 23 out of 46 children, and she had one father and 6 mothers. So her story is inspirational and very informative about what life is like in a polygamous family.
January, I hate to interrupt you, but I'm just getting word from our newsroom that as of right now, the U.S. Senate is now controlled by the Republicans. The Republicans now have 51 seats.
No surprise there.
No. I'm sorry about that. I'm not sorry that the Republicans took the House. I'm sorry that I interrupted you.
Oh, no problem. I understand, dear. Okay. Shall I continue with chapter 4?
Please do.
Yeah, and it was James Mapes, and he is an imagination expert.
Mm-hmm.
He is an actor and author, and when you see his picture, you know you have seen him in so many movies. Chapter 5 is Sydney Biddle Barrows, and many years ago, she was known as the Mayflower Madam, and she ran a call girl operation in New York. So her story is a very interesting story. Chapter 6 is Daniel Blanchard, and he's an inner city educator and teen advocate and a delightful man. Chapter 7 is Anita Mahaffey. She's a cancer survivor, and she had cancer 3 times and had to have her face reconstructed.
Oh, God bless
and
her.
She went on from that to become a CEO, entrepreneur, and created a company called Cool Jams, and she's very successful. Chapter 8 is about a brother and sister, Rory Hoffman and Connie Ellis. They were born blind.
Mm-hmm.
They are from a family of 4 children that were born blind. And Rory is a blind musician, and his sister Connie wrote the book about him. But once you interview her, the story is really about her. Connie's like the person who held the family together. Tawana Williams, her book is Unarmed but Dangerous. She was a thalidomide
my gosh.
baby. She was born without arms.
Yeah.
And her mother was a single woman in the South in the 1960s. And Tawana was born, and her mother had taken the drug for morning sickness.
Mm-hmm.
So after she was born, her mother wrote a letter to President John Kennedy at that time. And what should I do? How can I take care of this child? Help me. And within 2 weeks, he answered that letter and made arrangements for Tawana to be educated. And she now can do anything with her feet that you and I can do with our hands. She can type, she can write books, she can change a baby's diaper. It's quite an inspiring story. So it was just a wonderful experience for me to share these people with my fans.
January, why do you think so many people are coming out and wanting to share their most intimate stories with people now? Is it something that we're seeing as a change in society where people are opening up and saying, hey, listen, I want to help because I've gone through this, and I want to help you through the pains, the struggles, the hurt that you're going through?
Mm-hmm. You know, you're right. It's a change, definitely. Things that people would never talk about before are now on the table. It's okay to talk. It's okay to talk about your struggles. It's okay to talk about the negative things. And the best part is that every one of these people have gone through difficult things. And, you know, my radio show is Success Stories Shared by January Jones. And really, everyone who is successful has a backstory, Rob, as you know.
Yeah, that is so true.
Yeah, everyone has, until you walk in their moccasins, you don't know what they've been through. And there's not one successful person on this earth who got there without struggling.
No pain, no gain.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's that simple. Nobody is born with a success story. We all have to work hard for whatever it is. And
no one gets a free pass.
Exactly.
Everyone has to pay their dues. And I think it's inspiring that people now feel they can talk about things that were never spoken about before. You know, actually, I feel like on my show, sometimes the unspeakable is finally spoken.
Well said.
Thank you.
Well said. Well said. You know, November is a month I always think of you. Always. Mm-hmm. Because you and I have done so much on on JFK, the Kennedys, Jackie O, and Onassis. Why do you think so many years later people are still just captivated by the Kennedy story?
Well, there's no question about it. People are captivated about it. Every November, my phone rings off the hook, and I do all kinds of interviews and shows on this topic. The reason is that it's a crime, it's the perfect crime. And everyone is still asking who killed Kennedy. And it's 50 some years later, and no one really has definitively said who did it. And it's like an obsession with the public. It's kind of like what they go through in England with Jack the Ripper. No one to this date really knows who Jack the Ripper was. No one knows to this time who actually killed Kennedy. It's unfinished business, Rob.
Do you think the truth will come out when the Kennedy papers are released?
Well, I wrote about that in my book, and that was my hope about it. Actually, I did a screenplay on that called 2044, Jackie's Story, because her papers were supposed to be released at that time, which would have been 100 years after the 80 years after the assassination. However, I don't feel that will happen because since she has died, her daughter has edited Jackie's papers. So whatever is released to the public will be what the Kennedys want released. It won't be what Jackie wanted released.
Why do you think Kennedy was assassinated? You've done a lot of research on it. You've spoken to a number of people through the many years. In my opinion, you are one of the most highly regarded Kennedy experts around. So why do you, January Jones, based on your investigative research integrity, when you've conducted everything, that Kennedy was assassinated?
Well, he was a marked man. He had so many enemies. You had to take a number and get in line for people who had motives to assassinate this man. He had his own enemies. He then had his brother's enemies. And unfortunately, he inherited his father's enemies. So he had enemies all over the place who wanted to get rid of him. I talk about the fact that Joe Kennedy, his father, had this horrible stroke that had incapacitated him. My feeling is if Joe Kennedy had not had that stroke, had he lived, I don't think we would have seen Jack Kennedy assassinated. I think Joe Kennedy would have been a buffer between Jack and Bobby and all of their enemies. Joe Kennedy knew how to do business in that world. And I think he would have kept his boys alive.
What about the Marilyn Monroe connection?
Oh, yeah. Actually, everyone knows about that now. But at the time, guess what? No one knew about it. It was a very secretive thing. Unless you were in the Washington circle or the West Coast Hollywood, most of middle America had no idea about Marilyn Monroe. That was a problem for Jackie because it embarrassed her and disgusted her because Jack was so blatant about it. They had one of those marriages where he did his thing and guess what? She did her thing too. However, she was very discreet about what she did in her private life. Unlike Jack Kennedy and Bobby Kennedy, they were not discreet, and that led to a lot of problems for them.
Well, I guess back then the Secret Service really did have secrets to service.
Yeah, they did their job, didn't they? They protected the president physically and emotionally.
What's your opinion as a Kennedy expert on the Warren Commission?
Oh, what a joke. I mean, it's pathetic. And one of the questions that I always wanted to ask was why, if I could have asked this of the Kennedy family, and if they would have answered, which they never have commented on this assassination, is how they could have accepted the Warren Commission without wanting to know more or without, questioning the validity of it. It was just a something. It was like everyone wanted this to go away, put it under the table, let's get on with the country.
Yeah.
And it was an easy out, but it was just so flawed. It was a terrible commission.
I think that line of logic backfired on them.
Yeah.
Big time. Do you think Lee Harvey Oswald was the lone gunman in this entire conspiracy?
Absolutely not. In my book, I actually named the shooter, and I also stated the fact that it was a triangular shooting. And it was interesting that after my book came out, the TV series, The Men Who Killed Kennedy, that was put out by the History Channel came out, and they named the same man that I named as the actual shooter of John F. Kennedy. Oswald was a patsy. He was exactly what he said he was when they were hauling him out of the police station and he was killed. He was a patsy. He was set up to take the fall, and the real shooter escaped. He was there with two other men. They were stopped in Dallas that day. They were not detained, and guess what? They flew out of our country into Canada. And once they got to Canada, he disappeared, never to be seen again.
Wow. How about Jack Ruby? Where did he fit in?
He was just kind of there by happenstance, and it was like his 15 minutes of fame. He was going to do something important with his life, which he had never done up to that point, and he did it emotionally. I don't think it was part of anyone's plan for him to do what he did.
January, you and I have to take our final commercial break for this hour.
Okay.
Talking to you, it's such a pleasure because, as I said, you and I have go back many, many, many years. We've been on air since 1992. My heavens. And I've had the pleasure of having you on before, and it's always a great pleasure having you on. And I'm so proud of you, the wonderful things you're doing, and the number of hearts that you're touching, and the difference in so many lives that you are making because of your radio show and the guests that you're bringing on. Great job.
Oh, thank you.
You and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue here in the X Zone with our very special guest, the one and only January Jones, www.januaryjones.com. Hi, this is Rob McConnell, just letting you know that the X Chronicles newspaper is now available online at www.xzonebookclub.com. All past editions and current editions of the X Chronicles newspaper are available for 99 cents. That's www.xzonebookclub.com, and that's 99 cents U.S. per edition. And don't forget, the X Zone store is now open as well for all of your X Zone Nation merchandise. www.thexzonestore.com. With each new extreme weather event or terrorist act, it becomes increasingly obvious that we live in uncertain and challenging times. We all buy car insurance. Why not collapse and catastrophe insurance? Matthew Stein, an MIT-trained engineer and green builder, has written 2 outstanding books to help people prepare, plan for, and deal with everything from minor situations lasting a few days to full-on collapse. Matt's first book, When Technology Fails, is a manual for self-reliance, sustainable living, and surviving the long emergency. This massive book covers the gamut from first aid and emergency preparedness to alternative healing, renewable energy, primitive living skills, and 18th century technologies that could be critical to your comfort and survival in a long-lasting crisis. Matt's second book, When Disaster Strikes, is a comprehensive emergency preparedness handbook and survival guide. When Disaster Strikes is an essential item for every family's go bag. Both books are available at all usual sources. There's a wealth of totally free information posted at whentechfails.com, and author-signed copies may be purchased at mattstein.com. That's www.whentechfails.com and www.mattstein.com.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Welcome back, everyone. January Jones is my special guest this hour. Her website is www.januaryjones.com. Listen, January, I don't know if I have ever asked you this question, but where did your interest in the Kennedy case come from?
Oh, okay. Well, that's a personal story that I share in my book. I was a widow when I was 25 years old. My husband was a naval test pilot during the Vietnam War, and he was killed testing a helicopter that they were Lockheed Aircraft was getting ready to go over to Vietnam. So there I was 25. I was a young widow. Mm-hmm. I had a 3-year-old daughter, and our other daughter was only 6 weeks old.
Oh my gosh.
So I just was really at a difficult time in my life. Mm-hmm. And this was in 1969. And of course, growing up in that era, we all were just obsessed with the Kennedys. I was raised Catholic. I went to all-girls Catholic school. So the Kennedys were just the best, you know. Mm-hmm. We all were obsessed with Jackie. Everyone wanted to look like her, talk like her, live her life. Little did we know. Yeah. And so when I became a widow, I was fascinated with Jackie as a widow and how she handled her widowhood and what she did. So at that point, I just became very interested in, and I was a history major in college, so I was really fascinated with the way it all played out. And then as time went on, some of the things just didn't fit. All of a sudden, I started to realize, having been a widow the way it really is, she did not fit the prototype of what most widows go through. And that was when I was able to, through research, connect her with Aristotle Onassis before the assassination of JFK. And that was like a red flag for me. That I just stopped in my tracks, and I started researching more and more, found out that Onassis, mm-hmm. who had been forbidden to be in the country, was actually Jackie's guest in the White House during the funeral.
Oh my gosh.
She had spent, prior to the assassination, she had spent 17 days on Onassis's ship, unaccompanied, of course, by her husband. And she and Onassis, as we now know, actually had a romantic interlude. And that was very, all the bells rang on that one. I figured it out right away.
January, as always, great talking to you. By the way, how can our listeners listen to your show?
Oh, okay. I'm on iHeartRadio. Just go there and plug in January Jones sharing success stories. I'm also on Blog Talk Radio. January Jones sharing success stories.
January Jones, my friend. January Jones, take care of yourself, my dear friend. Regards to your family. And I can't wait till the next time you join us back here in the X Zone. But until then, take care of yourself and be safe.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now. That's it for tonight, Exo Nation. I'll be back tomorrow night at 10 o'clock as once again we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And we come to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern on the X Zone Broadcast Network, the Good News Radio Network, satellite providers, terrestrial radio stations, and yes, across the internet. So until tomorrow night at 10 o'clock, as once again we cross the time-space continuum, remember to take care of yourself, take care of others, and always keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. From everyone here to everyone out there, good night, take care, and be safe.